is this game, which is to open up topics. The next one is stratification, sociology, mental health, society's blueprint, the master key. The other topic is the village that raises a child, parenting, and the other topic is elders. Now, with these topics, they're fractal. So we have a macro and micro approach to the topics where you can have a general conversation, very light and just expressing your feelings and emotions and whatever you know on random, or you could also add facts and dates and scientific information to the topic. So this is the game. Would you like to play a game? These are the topics at hand. These are the topics that your name.
Oh, full of wisdom. 7, sorry. Fair.
Today is with me, and we're going to be playing this game. Would you like to play the game with us today? We're doing plastic and recyclables. And as I said, I'm your host, your laughter facilitator, and your talk therapist, Regina from Regina's Rabbit Hole, and
Full of wisdom.
and
7.
Today,
And the reason why 7 is completion. When reaching a certain age, you should be full of your wisdom, and that's all that matters. We just basically generalize and just have fun in this, just keep it real.
so what I found interesting about our dynamics is that anybody who's listened to us knows that we think in two different directions according to society. And this is the male-female perspective, also the right and left hemisphere. So when it comes to syncretism of the male and female consciousness, it's also looking at how society, in a way, on a fractal perspective, is synchronizing itself and the energies. So bringing that field of energy into a space where we can see it, observe it, take what we need, and leave the rest to make adjustments. And so, in doing that, in a therapeutic manner, I want to play this game. So it started out as talk therapy, but now we're getting into structuring it just a little bit. And today, our game is
Plastic recyclables.
yes, and so we're just going to talk about, off the cuff, plastic and recyclables. Yay!
Yes, definitely. So I got some. We're gonna go back, perhaps. I'm a little older, so let's go back into 74.
What?
74. Yeah, I had to be at age of this understanding of growing up in Brooklyn with them roaches and them and the mices, saying abundantly for the most part, everybody has. So that was like just a natural way for us
Public
living
housing.
in the city. Not even public housing. We based in regular houses before the project really came in set. And I remember the roaches, and I remember the plastic containers because the roaches were so bad. The cereal,
Yep,
the
Tupperware.
mice. Yeah, so the mice was getting into the boxes, and you couldn't control it, no matter even if you were clean.
Why was Tupperware so important?
Yeah, and basically what it was, the plastic plastic is no good for us.
Right.
And the fact that we kind of almost sensationalize plastic, even to the point it's in our system, because we know that in China they make plastic rice.
Yes.
It's just common. So when we look at the plastic timber, yes, it is good, but couldn't have been something else for the scientific minds and smart as humanity
Exactly.
is to put plastic in our life and become a part of our psyche.
And we have a problem right now with China not wanting to recycle the plastics.
Well, I mean, that's a global thing that
Exactly, but that's the advancement of all the plastics we use now. And we're talking about recyclables. Remember back when the birds were having a problem? They used to tie the soda cans and the beer cans with that plastic stuff to hold them together, those rings. And the rings were getting stuck in the ocean. And the birds were getting those rings that were holding the cans together around their necks and wings and stuff. And so they were having to go and cut those off. It was a problem to the ecosystem. And so they stopped using them. That's why they stopped using the plastic on the beer cans and the soda cans.
I remember everything, when I come in the 70s, mostly everything was bottled. Everything was
you're right.
bottled. Everything, But then they had to get smarter and
Plastic was said that it was easier to transport things without the too much loss because the plastic was more
it was lighter.
flexible,
Yeah,
easier to make or some crap. I mean,
But
they gave us a lot of reasons for using plastic.
absolutely. Just like the plastic is no good, and that's just common. You know, I know did deep research. Just know that plastic is no good. You know the the basic toxics that come out of plastic. You know that we hold in containers for over a period of time is no good. Even just like and switch real quick, just like canned foods. Most people that don't eat canned food that I talk to are very healthy as far as the genetic buildup.
BPA or something like that. It's
Yeah, we're not
a
putting
chemical
out- yeah.
inside that they put on the lining, that plastic lining that's inside the can. There's a lining, and that stuff is full of this stuff. I think it's called BPA, and it's a chemical that they use so that the lining doesn't deteriorate into the vegetables.
So I think what we had, the fun part about it, that the plastic, you know what I'm saying, in its madness, actually saved us for comfortability, you know? Because when no mice and rights were coming out, when you put in that plastic, it did cut down because they couldn't get into them.
Well, we thought, yeah, it was a saving grace. I was just remembering waking up in the morning as a little girl and what we would get in front of the TV with the cartoons, and you go in there and grab your milk and go get that cereal. Yeah. And sometimes if you open the cereal, there would be
Roach,
bugs in it.
Yeah.
And especially in your cornmeal and your flour, sometimes things would get in there. And so our mother, the Tupperware was vitally important. She would go to the Tupperware parties and order it. That was vital in our neighborhood.
Like it was like
everybody was selling Tupperware. Everybody had it. We made popsicles. They had all these different little things, and shoot, if you didn't have Tupperware, you wasn't a real mom.
But listen, before the Tupperware plastic or ice trays that you talk about, right?
Yeah.
Before that, they were the metal ones.
Yeah, yeah.
They were the ones that you could take, like, it was almost like it was metal.
Pull
and
a lever.
Pull the lever, they come out.
Yeah.
You know, well, I guess it was more convenient. It's like I think it got more like microwave.
But the plastic, they told us it was good because you could just shake. You remember, you just twisted the tray and they popped out.
Yes. Now listen to this right here. Think about it. Radiation is no good for us, right? So now it comes up, microwave comes, right? Plastic microwave. Put it in the packet. So does that not cause some kind of health problem for us? Some neuro?
Yeah, because of the toxicity from the plastic.
Radiation.
Yeah. No. The radiation is separate. Adding to the plastic, the toxic chemicals that the plastic gives off inside of the microwave, yes. And the way that the microwave cooks the food from the inside out, that stuff mixes together inside of our system. It's very toxic.
And we don't even realize. That's why people say, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna put it in there."
Hungry man dinners.
Oh my God. Well, a little different than hammer. Even though that was damn.
It's still held in plastic. It's from my research, and I don't have my stats and stuff out right now. This is where the public can, add your stuff to the game. The contaminants and stuff inside of the containers that they tell us when studying about consciousness and using certain tools to raise and elevate to get rid of the noise, what I'm saying, the static that would interfere with you having a clean aura. One of the things is plastic and certain metals, but plastic especially can damage your field.
Well, let's look at the bottom line. It's toxic.
It's not plastic, a living organic. It's not an organic living.
It's man-made.
Right. But one of the other facts that I got from studying and research was that this is weird, right? We are very concerned about plastic, and there's lots of concerns about how toxic plastic is, but yet plastic is made from out of the same things as the earth. It's made of the components. They make it from the components that are already here, even though the earth has a hard time decomposing it.
Well, then we go into the law. Should plastic have been made up, for our comfort? And I think that answers, if we're not losing it for the protection like rain or something like that, but to use it for us to store food in and then put it in some heat and heat it up, that's radiation.
Was it an item of trickery?
Well,
was it put there as a solution for a problem, and then it's actually something that's going to lead to our demise?
Well, that's where we're at right now.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about.
Plastic.
I mean, even if we get into electronics, switching recyclable computers, and so that's why they refurbish the computers, right? Because they can't take computers and just burn them up, because they take let's take a million computers, right, and try to burn them. What will happen? It will burn, and then what? That fumes will go into the air, the pollution would instantly kill us.
Yes.
So basically they can't do, so what they have to do, basically they'll have to bury it in some kind of rural area.
We still have a problem with that stuff right now.
I believe over here in Manchester and going to Hartford. And when you look at that big thing, it looks really, really beautiful. Well, that's a waste dump. You understand? Recyclable. All the garbage go over there, be dumped there, but it looks beautiful. But over the years, 20 years, the toxin that's coming up in the fumes, when babies are born, there's a birth defect and a developmental issues come up, and so once in a while. So when we look at the plastic, what it does, it seemingly look like it weakens us as a people, where the system can actually control you, and that's just one of many ways that they're doing it.
You're right. Some of those factories and stuff that made some of these materials had problems in society with waste, and they had toxic landmines and stuff, and then eventually over time they end up building housing places over top of these places, and those people had families and had children and ended up with cancer clusters or lymphoma and all kinds of other birth defects that happened in a radius of this area, where when they did the investigations, they found out that the toxicity from these places that made these chemicals, and these places like plastic and other things, other radio equipment and things, leaked into their water and their land, and they got sick from it.
Yeah. But you know what? The beautiful thing is how we can adapt to anything that man is doing to us.
That's why I was saying about how people were talking about the plastic being dangerous and the land not wanting to absorb it. But the other point somebody made was, wait a minute, this plastic is made up of all the different things that are already here. We just composed it in a different way, alchemically. Okay, so
yes,
we're talking about recyclables and plastic, so we're still on topic. Recyclables and plastic.
Well, the thing about the plastic, it's broad. So we go from the plastic containers to basically talk about recyclables and what's going on with us and how the mind becomes recyclable.
But wait, let me stay on the land first before we go to the mind. Okay. The land was recycled, okay? But it was recycled improperly. It wasn't cleaned up or anything. There's ways to clean up land and stuff. The people use mushrooms, and there's different things that, even remember George Washington Carver, when the land became toxic and they couldn't plant, he used peanuts. There's ways that we can use our sciences and alchemy to be able to process and change the conditions that we've caused due to our ignorance. Okay, and that goes with recycling our minds.
Is it ignorance or vanity or ego?
Recycling our minds, changing our programming.
Wouldn't it seem that the reason why, like before, I remember when there was no remote controls and you had the TV, you had the antenna on the TV, and how they recycle, and we're gonna go, this is just briefly, how they gave us remote control, and it just made us more lazier. Make the mind, when you're moving, I believe that all three must be moving simultaneously, physical, mental, and spiritual. If these two, if they're not balanced out, it's almost like they can recycle us to do anything. And they started off by introducing plastic containers. As smart as man is, couldn't have been another way, because of what it's going to do to us physically. You know what I'm saying? By we storing food inside a plastic container, seriously. It's not even supposed to be stored in cans. It's stored in cans because of if anything happened to us in the future, where all food off the land is gone. Well, if we do, that means that a power greater than ourselves is doing something to get our attention. And that's just where it's at. Man cannot be outsmart what it has put us here. And whatever one chooses to call, one should definitely respect that. I believe that the outcome, you understand, is what we are dealing with right now. What is the outcome? And it doesn't look good at the end of the day. This toxic, this recyclable trickery that is being presented before us is just, it just really makes us docile as humanity, like us as humanitarians. It just really makes us look really crazy. And the system that is doing that, everybody follows the system.
That's why I want to get into this, right? As far as recyclables, why is the elderly so disposable?
Because remember, the older you get, you start to regress. You start to go back. You understand what I'm saying? So as we get older, we come back into baby stage. This is why, wisdom is so key.
That's what I was pointing out.
But
now,
that
was it was more like a rhetorical question to reflect upon. But my answer is exactly what you're saying, but on a different line. It's short and long memory. See, the young, wild, and free thing, they have short memory. They have their experiences that they're having in the now, and that's easily controllable because you're still gathering information in order to gain wisdom. You have to have a timeline. You have to have something to reflect upon. And so you need long memory. The elderly, we have long memory, and as we get toward a certain aspect of time in our lives, we start to reflect back. And that's when we start to gain our wisdom. It's a conjugation, you know what I'm saying? Like a ripple effect. And so the elderly has a timeline, and they can do problem resolution, whereas the youth can't. So we're looking at the elderly as disposable, but I don't really feel like, I believe that that's a part of the programming that we received as a society, where they cause a problem. They make us think that the elderly is an issue, but they cause a problem and then have a solution. Oh, the young people are the ones that are supposed to save us. They're our future. With what kind of wisdom will they bring to us if they have no past to weigh in, to decide on the decisions that they're making in the now? You have to have a past. You see what I'm saying? You have to have that wisdom to be able to compare your actions now to then, and a time change to reflect upon. So that's why I'm saying, why is the elderly so disposable? That I believe that that's a part of the thing that we're going with, so that they plan that on purpose to make the elderly, devalue the elderly deliberately in order to set up the scenario. So we could change our minds, like you said, recycle our minds and get rid of that thought, because we need, yes, bring that into it, please.
Well, definitely when you're looking at the elderly and you're looking at categorically unequal, and then you have to sell
the book
that.
You have there.
Yeah, well, this book is called Categorically Unequal: The American Stratification System by
Who is it by?
By Douglas S. Massey. And I was just doing a basic study, and what I was identifying. Let me just get this.
Yeah, part of recycling your mind is make sure you have books around your house that you can look up your topics and stuff when you do your research.
Mm-hmm. Now, the definition of stratification refers to the unequal distribution of people across social categories that are characterized by differential access to sacred resources. So when we're looking at the stratification, it starts to identify us, right? And this says the resource may be material, such as income and wealth. They may be symbolic, such as prestige and social standing, or they may be emotional, such as love, affection, and other course of sex. Then the term stratification. So when we're looking at that, it's just identify us, basically, and I'm going to end it by social categories defined mainly on the basis of gender, age, kinship, category, perceptions that appear to be hardwired into human and social cognition. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at the social categories, gender and age, we look at that kinship. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know what kinship is. Kinship is like mother, father, and that family, and then you might have an extended, when the cousins start, the first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, now it goes into kinship, next up family, and the social category defined mainly, if we keep going into it, it goes into human social cognition.
So this is sociology, and they know that this stuff is hardwired into the way that we interact with one another, and so it's very easy if you're developing the constructs of society, the laws, the rules, and the cardinal rules, just the regular conduct of the space that you're in. It's easy to manipulate that. If other people don't have information, they're herded along like sheep because we're lacking. The blinders are the lack of information. So recycling is to know that, be aware of that, change the consciousness, and put the information there that they tried to take away. And that doesn't come without some deep search. So these issues with the plastic and the recyclables actually came up while doing research and reflecting on our own lives. And how does this simple thing affect us and has affected other people? So on a macro, micro perspective and look at this, we can start to see how we interact with one another in these different ways. Okay? Now, one thing I found interesting is that some of these places that had contaminated land and generational for a couple of generations, the grandmother, the mother, and the children were popping out with these freaking defects, cancerous and all kinds of other weird birth defects because of the toxic land that they were on. That they felt exclusive in some of these places because it was whites only. They kept blacks out of there. And I thought it was kind of ironically interesting how the Most High has a sense of humor, that they locked us out of those areas only to be contaminated, thinking that they were exclusive, sitting on this land. So they were used with that thought, you know what I'm saying? Just having that thought in your mind. It's like you can't escape spirit. You know what I'm saying? You can't escape it. It's sad, but it's
recyclable. It was recyclable. And
the Most High is recycling too.
Well, he's all.
Look at the backdrop of that energy is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And excuse me, when I deliver, sometime in my delivery, it'll be a little scrambled and a little fuzzy.
You're doing good.
In identifying the stratification process, that's just identifying genders, race, and et cetera, et cetera. So when we start to identify these particular, we talk about elders, and then we have to start to separate that, because as a black male, it's different from a white male, Asian male. We must identify that. That is a form of stratification inside the sector. What we fail to do, in my opinion, is start to identify what's going on, our stratification within our sector, and what's going on, the rich, the poor, the gay, and all of that. And having that term of respect and looking at the terms of recycle, have we become recyclable in 2020? You know what I'm saying? And when we try to make a move, we already know that we're targeted not only from the other people or the system within itself, but if we're inside our system. We have been, listen, they just did a recyclable to us on the mind tip. Look, they done dropped everything, all the entertainment, sports. So now we're on this internet. This is the last way to how we're going to really, really eat. And those who are indirectly not adhering to the system, right? When that's taken away, what do you think is going to happen? They're already setting things forth. We're the only one they got. But let's look at this group. When we try to form together, we're not allowed to. We're like the roaches with no plastic containers. There's no place where we can go just to comfort. Anywhere we try to hide, we can't.
And so recycling our own minds, we need to realize that we can't escape the consequences of our own bigotry.
Because there's no law.
There's a direct consequence for our own bigotry. Due to our behaviors. So now, I like this game, because recyclables and plastic goes into a lot of different areas. Like we got plastic people that are just, carbon copying themselves after the general consensus, because that's the programming we have. It's easier to get along. It's easier to feel like we fit in. And we're also designed like that. Some of us are thinkers and we actually project our thoughts and reasoning onto the rest of the public. That's just the way we work. Yes.
This recyclable thing is...
Oh, wait a minute. Let me finish that. And other people receive those thoughts and then initiate them and put them into action. So we fit together. That's why I said we can't escape the consequences of our own bigotry. because we're fractal and we fit like a puzzle. If I have a bigotry about something and I walk out into the community, it's going to directly affect somebody else because of the way I move and because of the decisions I make. What I allow and what I disallow will be a direct result of my programming. And so that's why it's so important to do the sociology and the way that they utilized it to corrupt us and to give people faulty programming, thinking that they're actually exclusive when they're just setting themselves up like everybody else. It's just a different look. You know what I'm saying? So they give melanated people the projects and the drug-infused neighborhoods and the package stores on every corner and things like that.
That's by design.
Right, and the low income and try to prevent us from producing economy. But for the whites,
that's a form of recycling.
Exact. For the whites, they give them defaulty programming, making them feel like they're exclusive and keeping them away from resources that could actually develop the culture and society to the betterment. And they isolate them into these places where they can do whatever they want to them. And as long as they feel like they have white privilege, they allow. This is what's happening. As long as we feel like we black and we got black power, we allow them to do whatever they want to us in our section. And as long as they feel like they're white and exclusive, they're being programmed and herded like sheep the same way we are with different programs.
But I think
we need to change that and recycle that energy.
To all people, everybody's doing pretty much what they're supposed to do. When we look at us, this right now becomes our problem because there's no more that we can say. Man, animal, black man, black woman. There's no more that we can say, but hell, that business. We don't need nobody to tell us. Everything has been put right there before us. So at the end of the day, I'm saying, okay, we can talk about this. We're highly intelligent. The world is highly intelligent. So the intelligence is basically just to know. If you're not intelligent or taught in that, then you don't know. Then somebody goes, oh, well, you haven't been taught. So ones that are taught or been tricked into being teach in a system that demise seemingly all of us. Because if you got one bad apple, it spoils a whole bunch. I mean, if you got a whole bunch of rich people and there's one bad person, it's going to make all of it still make it look bad because it's a representation of you. So we know that the world and the mind seem to be recyclable, and we go back to the roaches and the rats when we initially started from. And did that help?
That's
us
fractal. We got roaches and rats too. It's people's character.
But did it help us control the mind? And it did. So the intent
within our consciousness,
yes, but the intent of the introduction of the plastic, because we didn't research within our own sector. We didn't see the future. We didn't research within our sector to say, well, these plastic, is there another way? Can we keep it clean? No. So we took what they get, just like right now. They took everything. Where we are. We're on the internet now, right? And that's how. And people try to make that their livelihood. Do you not think that they're watching us through the sociology, right? The social science, they're looking at us and everything. They're sitting there on a 24-hour clock with AI. So now they don't have to do anything. Their job is easier because machine come in there, and they're doing the job, and we're sitting back, scrambling, using our physical, but they have control of the mental through recycling process, right? And so inside the household, everybody's sitting there saying, I copy each and everybody that's born, copy somebody. So and they have put it into our psyche and caused this placebo effect paranoia. That's what it's paranoia is just a thought, a racing thought that causes anxiety and just go into an oblivious mindset that is continuous through your sleep. When you're awake, you still have the thoughts because what you do out through the day, you more or less take it conscious. And we go, so now we have this thing, because I don't like to do a conscious community. To me, it sounds elementary. We have evolved to just mindset and having people like-minded in a positive way.
Well, in our awareness, we can now transmute this energy, and that's recycling. It's just another. It's doing it through energy, So that's really good. I'm glad we had this talk, and we can open it up to the community, and I'm.
But laughter in this right here. We have to laugh at us how much information that we're going to get to not just go out and start to utilize what we learn without affecting someone. Because on a physical ring, we can't do nothing. This is all mental. The fight is mental, and then it comes into a spiritual warfare. And we have to understand how to identify the negative and the positive.
I'm so pleased with those people who are out there actually really trying to make change, really working for change, really fighting their demons and doing their shadow work. And I'm just, to know that there is just, a few other people out there that are actually doing, because it's really hard work, and that's why a lot of people don't want to do it. So shout out to you, much love to you and yours, keep changing the world, keep adding to your information, and keep that elder there at the other end of the tunnel so that they can feed back their perspective to you.
And I know in closing, the elders today have no respect, and in my opinion, should not really get no respect, because when we're looking at leaders, where are our leaders? The leaders is when an individual can make a change, a simple change. We can't make big changes. And that is also coming into law and understanding what law is.
Yes.
Law of the universe is law of self. Mm-hmm. When you identify law of self, then you start to open up. It's like a beautiful flower that you plant, and then you just start to see it start to blossom.
Yes, balance.
We have not blossomed. We're still on the ground trying to plant these seeds, through people that we shouldn't really, really adhere to. We should adhere to self by just going through a spiritual detox.
And I can say, as observing the elders, we need to look at the fractal in this. We need to look at the pole on this. That the youth right now feels very discouraged, and at the same time, the elderly also feel very discouraged, and they've had a time to do some things, and perhaps didn't do a lot of things they were supposed to, and didn't grow up, and now is the time. So elders need to earn their respect and give respect. And this is the perfect time to be able to resolve some of those issues and recycle that energy as well.
The recycle now is fear. Fear, an acronym, false evidence appearing real. Common acronym, what I'm saying? When I was going to work every, day, and going to work, and I used to see this big sign. It said, hope is contagious. And it then said, so is fear. And big love, I said, wow. If hope is contagious, what I'm saying? It says, so is fear. It's like, wow. Because what we're dealing with now on a certain occasion is fear of the unknown. For me, in closing, I go on a biblical tip, and I go there and look at them prophecies. They manifest themselves. The laws help to strip and remove any toxicity that goes on. For me, it goes and help them die lie, that stealing, sexual conduct. We don't identify it, and those are the problems. That is another whole thing. But we want to start to recycle the bullshit and start to recycle love, not in the system love, but the love of fam, and really understand, did I hurt anybody? We can't even you can't even take your child and give it to somebody and say, hey, take them to the store, go pick. You can't even do it, because now here it is, 30, 40 years later, we're seeing all this sexual misconduct going on in the household through family, and we're not talking about other people, we're talking about within our sector. Clinically, I used to go into some of the inner cities, go into the houses, and go into, and I'm from there, and going in and seeing it. And when you go in there, you don't have to say nothing. You can talk to the grandma. You see the grandmother, the uncle, everybody just leaning around, and you just see the darkness and the hopelessness, and no one to save them. But I know when I walk in there, just my spirit alone, hey, what's going on? Knowing that there's a whole lot of mess going on, but I ain't equipped. But I can walk with the spirit, because my mind's been recyclable to a certain point.
And that's, on that note, I want to end this thinking about this one thing, how elders can recycle their energy. This is the perfect example. In my research, I learned that the elderly are less likely to learn computer skills because it's so intimidating and things like that. There's a fear there, because it's a new aspect of technology that's being brought into society. Now, my grandmother was one of the only elders that I knew that learned computers when I was in my 20s. And I was like, what? My grandma learned computers? She went back to school, y'all, and learned computers.
I remember that.
My grandma was a badass.
She was beautiful. Yeah, she was bad. Though.
She was, and she used to love to dress. I admired my grandma. She was hard, like a little rough around the edges.
She had to be.
And I didn't understand her at the time, but that's my youth. Now, as an adult, as an elder, I understand her more because I'm at the other side of that tunnel and I'm able to see my past. But as a youth, what she did for me was bridge the gap, because school was intimidating to me, and so was intellect. Showing my intellect was intimidating. And watching my grandmother, a symbol of a woman in my family, go back to school and learn computers was awesome. And she still kept reaching out to me, even though our relationship was a little rough. She wasn't afraid to work that out with me to the day that she passed. And I love my grandmother. And that energy still transpires and transmutes to me to this day. And that's changing the energy. So whatever was there between me and women, I have that to hold on to. And so that's what I mean about changing energy. Much love to you and yours. This was Siren Buddha Medicine. Thanks for playing our game with us. We threw it up in the air. Have fun with it. And the topic was recyclables and plastic.
Full of wisdom, 7.
And we're out.
Peace.
Much love to you and yours.